All right. Hello, everyone. It is 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Welcome to the Growth Accelerator Fund Competition Themes webinar. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you so much for watching the recording. If you're watching the replay of this, you're here because you're interested in fostering a national innovation support ecosystem to advance small business research and development from ideas to the commercial market. My name is Jamila Corbett, Engagement Director at Established. We're working with the SBA on communications, outreach, events, and strategy. In case you're wondering, today's meeting is being recorded and will be accessible via the website americaseedfund.us. It's actually right. Is this? Yep. I'm pointing in the right direction right here. It's on the title slide. So that landing page is where you can download the competition guidelines and also fill out your application. And speaking of application and awards, this money cannot be used for direct investment. All right, now let's talk a little bit about who this competition is for. The Growth Accelerator Fund competition is for entrepreneur support organizations. You'll hear us refer to them throughout as ESOs. Now you might be wondering, what is an ESO? And am I one of those? Thank you for the question. I'm about to answer. ESOs are groups and organizations that support the broader innovation ecosystem. These include people who are working for business incubators, startup accelerators, investors, co-working spaces, small business development centers, APEC accelerators, tech transfer offices, colleges and universities. That list is long, but it's not exhaustive. The common thread here is that the company or organization that you work for supports innovators across the U.S. innovation ecosystem. And again, this money cannot be used for direct investment. Next slide. All right, here's today's agenda. Our plan is to keep you here for about an hour. If you have questions as we're speaking, please utilize the Q&A at the bottom right here, feature in Zoom. We, of course, welcome your questions, but I also encourage you to just kind of sit tight because most of your questions may be answered throughout this presentation. Also, your question may have already been answered. We've compiled a list of frequently asked questions and published them on americaseedfund.us/accelerators. Yep, I'm pointing in the right direction. The website is at the bottom of this slide. It's going to be under resources. So please refer to that document, and because the answer to your question might be there. And especially, it's going to be especially useful for those of you who are catching this on the recording. All right, now let's get this party started. To share more about this competition and its structure is Investment and Innovation Impact Fellow Moore Schenker.
Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. I'm Maura. We can go to the next slide. I'm going to give you a super quick overview of the Growth Accelerator Fund competition, which we also call GAFC. Why do we have GAFC? GAFC is an ecosystem building prize competition to nurture an equitable entrepreneurship ecosystem, innovation ecosystem throughout the entire U.S., including its territories. So we are not forgetting about you, Puerto Rico, Hawaii, Guam. We love everyone. We'll take the next slide. The GAFC, I love GAFC, is a two-stage competition. The first stage is what's open right now. It's $50,000 in a cash prize. It's not a reimbursement. You get $50,000 as if you're a winner selected as a catalyst, and that's the ESOs are eligible to be catalysts, and Jamila did a great job of explaining what an entrepreneur support organization is. That first $50,000 is used to create connections. We want all of the ecosystems to be connected to each other, to be able to learn from each other, to be able to share resources. We have right now $5,750,000 available for this year's program, 2024. The stage one award is $50,000, and we have up to $3 million allocated for stage one, which would be up to 60 prizes. So please, please, please submit 60 prizes for stage one. And then we'll talk about only stage one winners are eligible to apply for stage 2. Stage 2 is an additional $150,000. So if you win both stages, you will have $200,000 in cash prizes, not cash and prizes, real cash prizes. I'll take the next slide. So submissions are due by Friday, February 16th at midnight. The stage 1 Catalyze portal is already open. I know Hawaii is a state, but I'm talking about from A to Z, the alpha to the omega, everybody. So our ecosystem builders, our catalysts, we're going to talk about the theme areas today because there have been a lot of questions about theme areas. So that's why we're having a whole webinar. February 16th is when your applications must be in. Please don't wait till the last minute. If there's a tech issue, something goes down, the internet's not working where you are, there's no extension. It's better to submit early. You cannot submit late. We'll announce winners in April. And yeah, then the winners will have from April through June to get their partnerships solidified and get their programs done, or, you know, planned, not done, obviously. So let's take the next slide. Am I running on time? I think I'm running on time. Yes, I'll take the, perfect. A lot of questions. What can we use stage 1 funds for? Here's $50,000. Noah City is not an ESO, but the city has ESOs in it, I guarantee. So recruitment of your new ecosystem partners, an analysis of what your ecosystem is missing, ecosystem mapping, gaps in services and programs, understanding who's underserved. So we'll talk about a couple of winners from last year and what they used their $50,000 for. Again, as Jamila mentioned, this money cannot be used for direct investment. You cannot use this money for R&D. It is solely for ESOs. It is for connecting in the ecosystems, building partnerships, building relationships. Yes, okay, next slide. We'll take the next slide. What is a submission? A submission has 3 components. We need a slide deck. Please save it as a PDF. It is no more than 13 slides. Download the guidelines. We give you slide by slide, exactly what should be on each slide and the judge's rubric. So what are the judges looking for? How are you being reviewed? What is the scoring like? We tell you exactly what we're looking for. It's all there in the guidelines. Please download the guidelines. Please watch the pre-application webinar, which was on the 16th of January, and the recording is up on the same website that we've been talking about, the americasseedfund.us. We need a 1-slide summary. So that summary becomes public if you win. And then we need a 90-second video narrative. We are not looking for bells and whistles and fancy lights and any kind of production values for your video. It's an opportunity to be more conversational and tell us what your goal and your vision is. So all 3 things must be submitted for your application to be considered complete. That is a 13-slide deck saved as a PDF. Please, 11-point font. I know you have so much to tell us and you want to share as much information as possible. We have to read it on a computer screen. So please don't go below that 11-point font size. The 1 summary slide, the video narrative. Those are the 3 components. The application is right on the website. americasseedfund.us is where you put in all of your information. I'll take the next slide. All right, so I wanted to share some of our 2023 winners and what they said about GAFC. So I love this quote from BioRise: "The flexibility of GAFC award allows us to work on projects and bring together a group of partners who wouldn't otherwise have collaborated. Where they're making relationships, it's a launching pad for future projects with new partners." And that's exactly what this competition is for. Stage 1, building relationships, creating collaborations, working with people that you normally wouldn't have a chance to work with. Next slide. Here we have a tribal group that was able to bring together multi-tribal government alliances and create a new consortium of tribes to come together and create a local cluster for UAS's unmanned aerospace. It's a learning thing for me too. I love that. So that's another thing that came together. It's a way to facilitate meetings. That money can be used for convenings. We encouraged people who won stage 1 to come to Tech Connect and use that money to come to a meeting hosted by SBA. And we got people from all over coming, and it was great. It was so productive. And I'll take, I think, what's my last slide. Yeah, Upsurge Baltimore. Again, they were able to host convenings and focus on national partners. So I know as an ESO person, you tend to be really focused on your own little part of the world, your own little region. What GAFC really wants to do is create a national innovative ecosystem so that we can share best practices and research and, you know, all the great resources throughout the country. And now I would love to introduce Brittany Sickler, the amazing Director of Ecosystem Development Division. Yep, I think I did that right, in OII, who's going to talk about what all of those words mean.
Thank you so much, Shamora. I really appreciate it. Thank you to Jamila as well, and to all of you who took time to be with us here today. As Maura mentioned, I am the Director of Ecosystem Development within the Office of Investment Innovation. We go to the next slide. Here, there's so much to share, and we are trying to condense down and are very excited to have some special guests be able to further dive into different aspects of the competition. We've noted many other resources, including another webinar, pre-application webinar available. So please do check some of that out if you're feeling a little bit lost, but still join us for the rest of the ride. It is an exciting time here with the Growth Accelerator Fund competition. Before I announce our guests, I did want to give a small background about OII. As we're focused on building an inclusive public-private support ecosystem for high growth or growth-oriented small businesses from idea to potentially an initial public offering. OII does this work through our America Seed Fund, the Small Business Innovation Research and Technology Transfer, SBIRS TTR programs known as America Seed Fund, which many of you might know is more than $4 billion a year in these non-dilutive grants and contracts from 11 different federal departments of small businesses doing R&D. We're also focused on helping the companies through the fund-to-fund public-private partnership, the Small Business Investment Companies program that incentivizes private investment in the growth and scaling of small businesses. And then, you know, kind of the third box here is how we foster and facilitate this thriving national ecosystem. I recognize many of your names here from joining us on our monthly SBA Innovation Ecosystem Network call, which if you don't know about it and you enjoy hearing from our federal partners and meeting other amazing ESOs, as we're talking about, please do register in the link in the chat, and we'll have that available in our follow-up. I also recognize some of you who are already supporting entrepreneurs, maybe specifically in SBIR and beyond, maybe through our federal and state technology partnership program, potentially through our regional innovation clusters, as you're connecting already across many partners around specific technology areas. And then I even see some former winners of the Growth Accelerator Fund competition, which is what brings us here today. If you go to the next slide. So, you know, we have the theme areas that we're going to be diving into, and I wanted to actually note SBA's strategic plan specifically directs us to support the work of the innovation ecosystem. And the key component of the country's ability to move forward in the wide variety of critical technologies, you know, does relate to this ecosystem. So how are we able to better piece together the information and the partners here? And GAFC is a component of that. So focusing on these theme areas allows us to connect winners, both stage 1, stage 2, with specific agency partners and programs, like we're doing today, but in a much broader space and even more targeted. It also enables us to potentially add on additional bonus prizes, which has been a question many folks have had, and we did address in our FAQs. So we have our specific prize funds already set aside for stage 1 and stage 2, but there's the ability for agencies to fund additional projects that relate to their priorities as well. And the overlap with our theme areas and the ability to then connect across is strategic and will hopefully make a difference for those of you who make it through and are successful in the competition. In the next slide, these are the theme areas that you've likely seen before if you've looked at the competition guidelines, which I hope everyone who has already expressed interest or wanted to apply has done so. These are very broad theme areas, and they're addressing national priorities from national and economic security to domestic manufacturing and production and sustainability and biotechnology. We are here today not to limit your creativity around your GAFC proposals, but instead to inspire new ideas and potential. While I'm thrilled to have our guests today, please keep in mind that they are highlighting only a portion of what's possible in terms of focus in your applications. For those who have read through, again, those guidelines, a must, you'll see we're not giving a priority to what's being specifically discussed today. Again, this is meant to kind of open the eyes, open some of you up to new potential, see where some of the agencies are in terms of their new programs, see how that they've been already working across different partners, and maybe that'll help as you're trying to put together a strategy, especially across the partners that you may or may not already be engaging with. I want to highlight a difference with last year, which last year's competition in 2023 included a category for underserved communities as a specific theme area. This year, it is clear we do expect all Growth Accelerator awardees to be working towards connecting underserved and undercapitalized communities with the innovation ecosystem. So please keep in mind, while that is not present as a separate theme area, that now is very prominent across all of our theme areas and all of the work that GAFC is trying to propel and seed. All right, well, let's hear from our guests because we don't have a lot of time today. I do see quite a bit going on in the chat, in our Q&A. We're going to be trying to answer as many of those questions both here during their time that they're speaking, also in the Q&A at the end, and in our follow-up to this webinar. So first up, if we gotta go to the next slide, we have Don Ufford from the Advanced Manufacturing National Program Office at NIST. Don, I'm going to ask you to come up here to the stage. Don is, I was saying earlier, famous in the manufacturing world, has worked across so many different partners, has a wealth of experience. I think it was a challenge probably for us to ask you to speak only for 10 minutes, but we really do appreciate your time. Don, you spoke last year and were able to help many of our potential applicants. And so by popular demand, we're happy to have you back again this year. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. Next slide, please. I'm happy to be here with the entrepreneurial serving organizations today because you're really the connectors that can help bring together so many people out there that have dreams and really have some great ideas that need a boost to bring them forward. I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs throughout my time, and they're always a source of energy, and I know you'll be able to help them on their way to achieve their dreams. What I'm going to talk about today is what those opportunities are for interaction with the Manufacturing USA program. So Manufacturing USA, and I'll give you a link at the end. It's a network consortium that's been put together in order to help advance manufacturing into production in the US. And you see down at the bottom, there's a lot of different agencies that are involved in this. So as I talk through that, you'll recognize that number one, we all focus on that primary theme that Brittany talked about right there in the center, domestic manufacturing and production. As you look at some of those subcategories, Somehow throughout our program, we touch on each of those. So we're really excited to be able to share that today. I'm here from NIST in the Department of Commerce, speaking on behalf of the network. And let's talk a little bit more about how you and your entrepreneurs might be able to connect with us. Next page, please. The overview of our program for Manufacturing USA is really, we have a vision that we want to make sure that we're securing that global leadership in manufacturing. It's so important as we go forward. And you all have heard a lot about some of the big projects like semiconductors and the CHIPS Act. Well, we're very involved with that because it's critically important that we have that capability here in the United States. The mission that we have and the way we do it is we really connect the people, ideas, and the technology together through our Institute network, which we'll talk about, to solve those industry relevant advanced manufacturing challenges. Now, industry relevant, that's where some of your entrepreneurs come into play. They're the ones that can forecast, can see the edge of the future and where it is, and they can really bring in those ideas and they can start to gather that momentum to be able to go and tackle these really tough challenges. Because when we do that, it really helps our industrial competitiveness and it strengthens our national security in a number of ways. You know, one of which we saw supply chain resiliency was, you know, it was a problem here during COVID. And we're really looking at what are those opportunities to improve that. And one of those ways to do it is have our own domestic manufacturing base, especially in areas that can really push technology and help deliver for the US. The next page shows us just a little bit about how we do that throughout the whole network. As I said, we're looking to improve competitiveness. So the entrepreneurs connecting with other entrepreneurs in manufacturing and with some of the government resources that we have an opportunity to leapfrog and go ahead of some of the overseas competition. That leadership in advanced manufacturing, I talked about that. One of the big things, though, is scale these manufacturing technologies. So while the SBIR, STTR programs are cool programs, they sometimes get that technology to the point that it's ready to go out and be produced, but the entrepreneurs don't really have a way to validate that production technology before they scale it. So that's what we have in some of our facilities is we have a way for them to validate their production technology, validate their product that they'll be able to scale it before they go out into full-scale production. So it's a real nice connection between the SBIR, STTR program and what our program and networks do. We're also working on developing the advanced manufacturing workforce. So your entrepreneurs really need people that have the technical skills, the ability, and are interested in making stuff. This is a great group because we all love making stuff and we're able to attract people that like to make things, but sometimes they need to be upskilled. Sometimes they need an opportunity to look into another field. So we develop curriculum that often ties nicely to what entrepreneurs need. Lower left-hand corner, I talked about shared resources and facilities. I'll talk a little bit more about that. We have 17 institutes scattered across the United States. Each of them have an ability to share some resources and some facilities if they're technically appropriate for the entrepreneurs. And I'll talk about that because this program isn't for everybody. This program isn't for somebody who's looking at doing a retail establishment on Main Street. It is for a technology entrepreneur that has that great idea, that wants to advance that idea and needs access to some state-of-the-art capability. Exchanging the best practices. One of the things our entrepreneurs will tell us is we get a chance to talk to big companies and evaluate whether our product's going to be good for them. So networking on a national scale. Increasing the partnerships and collaboration. Of course, we can do that. We help boost manufacturing employment. And what you're so critical in this process is you're helping us as we develop those innovation ecosystems. Next page. So as we think about that, and as we think about these purposes, what we see is we saw a need where on the left-hand side, that's really early in the process with that basic research. And there's a lot of government effort going forward there in Department of Energy and other areas. As that information is developed, as that technology is developed in the government labs and or universities, then sometimes as it gets to stage 4, where it's been produced in the lab, but now we need to evaluate, can it be produced at scale? Remember, I talked earlier about now you got to validate you can make it in large volumes. That's where we really get involved, is in that gap as we're taking it out of the lab, validating it in a production environment, so then it can go out and be manufactured either by the entrepreneurs. Who knows if they go for an IPO, they're going to be standalone, or if they go and connect with some other company, you know, they're going to do that to take it to the right through the private sector. Next page, please. Now, the way we do that is we have these institutes that I referred to, and there's 17 of them, again, in different regions throughout the US. The next page, I'll show you a little bit more. They have common functions listed in red across the bottom there, where number one, they're industry-led consortia. So in topics like biofabrication, we have some of the they have a neutral collaboration space where you can develop technology, develop the workforce in this public-private partnership. Now, what that means up above in the white bubble in an institute typically has some shared use facility, has facilities that have scientific equipment and have production equipment, have test beds where you can evaluate your production methodology. You can gather data on that productivity increase. You can utilize equipment that sometimes can only be found in limited areas. You know, when we take a look at some of our facilities, when you're doing like BioMade, when they're doing large scale biomass and biomaterial production, there aren't a lot of facilities, they're shared use around. So they bring a unique capability, and sometimes they have the capability for material prototyping, which can be very expensive and difficult to access unless you have an institute like this. So we enable this large scale collaboration. Our institutes typically have membership somewhere between 100 and 200 members in the institute, and they're a mix of academia on the left, a couple government groups will be involved in national labs, and then industry partners on the right. So it really is a great sweet spot for you to be aware of, so you can help connect your entrepreneurs to the correct institute. Now, the next page will show us what these institutes are and give you an idea of where we deal. We're in the area on the left-hand side. You see those colored sectors. We're in electronics going across from left to right. You can see that we have institutes focused on integrated photonics. You can see flexible hybrid electronics out in San Jose. Super cool stuff going on there with fabrication capability that's just fantastic to be able to demonstrate for the entrepreneurs that they're able to make their idea at scale. The right-hand side, Power America. As we take a look through, we go down, we have materials institutes, 3 of them there that you see to the right, where again, you can connect your entrepreneurs to these institutes. They can evaluate whether these institutes are right for them. Not all these institutes are right for your entrepreneurs. I'm just going to put that out there, that, you know, there's some materials areas where we don't have an institute. I'm sorry about that, but there are plenty that we have some cool areas where you can spend your time and your entrepreneurs can connect up and really make a great connection. An example is digital automation down there, the second from the bottom as I go across to ARM Robotics. One of the SBIR, STTR winners who went through NSF I-Corps, I'm sure one of your ESOs connected them into the I-Corps program, connected them through the SBIR, STTR. They got connected there into ARM, where they're able to validate their generic platform technology for robotic control in a manufacturing institute. And then they were able to connect up later and get formed up into Columbus as a standalone entity, growing with venture capital that maybe one of Brittany's groups funded through an SBIC. It's all connected with great things that SBA is doing and the rest of the US government. The next page. As I'm coming to the end here and wrapping this up, I just wanted to point out these additional resources that you can grab in the upper left-hand corner, NIST. NIST has laboratories that your entrepreneurs may be interested in utilizing, and they can access those, in some cases, free, and in some cases for very low rates. Lower left, the Manufacturing Extension Partnership. It's critical. They can offer boots on the ground technology to existing manufacturers and or entrepreneurs that already have something going in their state. The upper right-hand corner, Manufacturing USA that I talked about. And then lower right-hand corner, CHIPS. You've all heard about semiconductors and the CHIPS program. I just wanted to put that out there. There are entrepreneurial opportunities there. Go take a look at it. Love to have you participate. And with that, I'm going to close up for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Don. That was amazing. So really appreciate your the information you shared and your energy and excitement for this group. We can't wait to see what folks put forward in all those spaces, and you will definitely be hearing about that from us here coming up. Next up, we have another exciting speaker. So I'm going to invite Rukmani Vijayaraghavan up here to the stage. Rukmani, amazing to have you. Rukmani's been with the Department of Energy for many years now and has been a strong supporter of the Growth Accelerator Fund competition, as well as many other prize competitions and ESO efforts over the years. So Rukmani, really excited to hear what you have to share with us today.
Yeah, thanks, Brittany. Happy to be here. And I am a big fan of the Growth Accelerator Fund competition. It's also inspired some of the prizes that we've launched at DOE, like our Inclusive Energy Innovation Prize, the Community Energy Innovation Prize. And SBA has been a real leader in this space, so we are grateful for their collaboration. So I'm happy to be here. I am actually here wearing two hats. One as in the DOE's Office of the Undersecretary for Science and Innovation, where I'm on detail, and one as part of DOE's Water Power Technology Office, which is my home office. Next slide, please. So this is, could you advance a little further or no? Okay, so there were supposed to be boxes here that haven't showed up, but that's okay. I am like a good government employee. I'm going to walk through our DOE org chart. And as you can see, there is a big box on top that says Office of the Undersecretary for Science and Innovation. So that is where I am. And this is an office that encompasses many of DOE's science and applied energy programs, like the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy, which includes many of our renewable energy technology offices, and the Office of Science, which supports a lot of our DOE's fundamental science and engineering efforts. The Office of the Undersecretary of Science and Innovation manages these initiatives called Energy Earthshots, which I'm going to talk about in the next slide. Which is an all-hands-on-deck commitment that is aimed at addressing the climate crisis. Specifically, these are inspired by the Moonshot Initiative and like landing a man on the moon within a decade, like the US government aimed to in the 1960s. These Energy Earthshots have a technology-focused, time-bound, and measurable cost and performance targets. These are ambitious moonshot-like targets. And these are not something that we believe can be achieved in a business as usual scenario. And therefore, DOE launched these initiatives that were inspired by something called the Sunshot Initiative from the 2010s, which aimed at reducing the cost of solar panels. These are a series of programs that aim to reduce the overall costs and accelerate the technology development of various clean energy technologies. Next slide, please. So over the last 2 years, DOE has launched 8 Energy Earthshots. These cover a series of sectors that emit carbon emissions ranging from the electricity generation and grid, industry, transportation, and buildings. These can, we believe, deliver economic and livelihood benefits in communities across the country. They commit DOE to research, development, and demonstration breakthroughs that advance transformations that are aligned with the US's long-term climate strategy, including decarbonizing the electricity sector, electrifying end uses, and switching to clean fuels, cutting energy waste, reducing methane and other non-carbon dioxide emissions, and scaling up carbon dioxide removal. So these energy earthshots initiatives, which are coordinated by the Undersecretary of Science and Innovation, span across multiple programs at DOE, which were in the org chart from a few slides ago. So this includes basic research from the Office of Science. This includes applied energy R&D from the Office of Fossil Energy and Carbon Management, from the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy, from the Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations, from the Office of Nuclear Energy, because these earthshots inherently involve technologies and scientific advancements that span a number of different stages of technology development. And as a result, all of these offices that I mentioned above have various funding opportunities ranging from prizes of tens of thousands of dollars all the way to large hubs on the order of hundreds of millions of dollars. So please visit the website link below. That's energy.gov/energy earthshots initiative, which will link to many of the offices and programs that have funding opportunities related to these earthshots. Next slide, please. So I pulled the image of the 2024 theme areas of the Growth Accelerator Fund competition, and all of the boxes that you see are actually activities that we fund at DOE through either through the earthshots or through the different offices and programs within DOE. So these are not only part of the sustainability and biotechnology theme area, but we also have various programs supporting manufacturing. For instance, in our advanced manufacturing and materials technology office, we also support agricultural innovation in our bioenergy office, and in the Office of Science. We have a significant AI initiative. We support research in various infrastructure supply chain related activities. We participate in SBIR through all of DOE's science and applied energy offices. So we are really very well aligned with the theme areas. Next slide, please. And I'm going to transition a little bit to my other hat from DOE's Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy and the Water Power Technologies Office. So EERE is the US government's largest funder of clean energy technologies. Our goal is to transition to a carbon pollution-free electricity sector by 2035, net zero economy by 2050. We are part of most of DOE's energy earthshots as well. And a significant part of our work is ensuring that the clean energy economy benefits everyone, including and especially those who have been historically underserved by the energy system. So please visit our website, but EERE always has many, many open funding opportunities, ranging again from prizes through small business innovation research grants. We have larger funding opportunity announcements as well that are aimed at various aspects of advancing these technologies. And then finally, in my next slide, please. I just want to briefly call out my home office where I sit in the Water Power Technologies office. We support research, development, and advancement and commercial advancement of hydropower technologies and marine energy technologies. Again, we experiment with many different funding opportunities targeted at everyone from university students to somewhat mature technology developers. We have collegiate competitions, we have prizes, we have other small business grants. We even had a photo contest that just concluded a couple of months ago. So please do check out our website for many of our programs and funding opportunities, and sign up for all of EERE's and all of our technology office newsletters for more updated information. And next slide, please. I think that's all I have for today. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Rukmani. I do love that you started with the org chart. You wouldn't believe how helpful that can be, especially as DOE does have many offices and sub offices. So a little daunting, all those boxes, but you know, not that we're all trying to become experts, but especially as DOE, similar to other agencies, have very specific names in those offices, it is helpful as you're looking across the technology areas. So thank you for being with us today.
Thanks, Brittany.
All right. Last but not least, we have Daniel Getzel from the National Science Foundation and also working in collaboration with the CHIPS team over at NIST. Daniel has been a strong member of the innovation ecosystem for the past several years, if not more, but specifically here in the federal side of things. So Daniel has successfully navigated many agencies, new programs, and has worked on the ground with, I believe, many of you here, even on the call today. So Daniel, excited to have you come forward and talk about some additional areas within our themes. So thank you so much for joining, and I'll have you come up to the stage.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Thanks so much. I'm going to be honest, I might be slightly brief. I did not prepare as many slides as it seems like some of our other presenters, but I'm Daniel Getzel. I split my time between the National Science Foundation and over on the CHIPS team at NIST in the Department of Commerce. As a lot of you might know, the National Science Foundation created its first new directorate in over 30 years when the CHIPS and Science Act was passed. This new directorate, unlike some of the other historic directorates at NSF, is very focused on commercializing technologies, getting them out to market as quickly as possible, and doing this in an inclusive way that creates new geographies of innovation. So we're focused on the 10 CHIPS technology areas, everything from advanced computing and semiconductors to advanced materials to robotics, cyber, biotech, quantum, AI. We have some programs that are focused on these specific verticals. We have other programs that are focused on trying to do really creative things in these spaces. So we have a program focused on open source technologies. We have a program focused on the convergence of different technologies coming together. We have a program focused about how do we ethically develop these technologies in a really thoughtful way so they can be deployed from the start with the intentional end user at the center of it. So we're organized with 3 different kind of verticals within this technology innovation and partnerships directorate. We have translational impacts, which is where SBIR, STTR, and other programs are housed. We also fund programs like Activate, which is an entrepreneurial PhD program out of that arm of the TIP directorate. We have the Innovation Technology Ecosystems Directorate. That is where I sit. And we run the NSF Engines program, which I'll talk about in a moment, and a number of other programs, including the Convergence Accelerators. And then the last thing we have is this Emerging Technologies division. And they're focused on really these next generation technologies. How do we build partnerships with other parts of NSF, with other agencies to really advance these emerging technologies, some of which are on the screen here today. So I know we have a real focus on disaster and climate mitigation and a number of other focuses that will be coming out to the public in the near future as we continue to stand up new initiatives out of that last vertical in the TIP directorate. So next slide, please. So what's really exciting is this past week, we made a major announcement. We announced our first cohort of the NSF engines, and these are massive awards. I mean, $160 million up to 10 years for regions to build their innovation capacity. So it isn't to support an individual startup or an individual research lab. It's really focused on how do we build this innovation capacity, these ecosystems in regions across the country so that they can become these leading ecosystems. So on the map here on the left, you see our 10 awardees spanning the country, spanning a diverse set of topic areas, and they all are receiving $15 million right now, up to $160 million over the next 10 years. And in addition to these 10 awardees that you see on the map, we have 59 additional development awardees, which are kind of earlier stage ecosystems that are gearing up to prepare for this next round of NSF engines, which hopefully, pending the availability of funds, we'll be able to announce in the coming months. So how do you plug in? Where are there opportunities? One, if you're based in any of these regions that received an NSF engine or a development award, I'd highly recommend reaching out to the teams on the ground. we created this form called How to Get Involved, and you can reach out directly to the engines that you're interested in, and then we'll share that information with the teams. Also, if you're working in some of these technology areas and you look at our website and you see an interesting opportunity, definitely recommend reaching out to the lead organizations. Some of them are universities, some of them are nonprofits, some of them are ESOs, and talk to them about how you can contribute to the work that they're doing. They span all of the key technology areas. On the right, you'll see some of the technology areas that are represented in our portfolio of the 10 awardees, the large awards. But if you look at our entire portfolio, every technology area is covered. I think some of the areas that we have the most projects in are advanced manufacturing and robotics, AI, and we also have quite a few projects in the climate space. I think 40% of our engines are in climate, kind of spanning both the advanced energy and also the disaster prevention and mitigation space that's outlined in the CHIPS Act. So I know some of you are already part of these teams that are in this first cohort. I know others of you view yourself as kind of the connective tissue in your ecosystem and would love to scale that work in the future, either with these existing locations or perhaps teams that are going to be competing in the next round of the engines competition. So however we can be helpful, we'd love to continue the conversation. As you might have seen when we put out our White House fact sheet, we are working closely with a number of different agencies on partnerships to think about what are the benefits that we can offer to our engine awardees in partnership with others. And one of the things that we specifically called out were some of these programs that Brittany and the team are running over here at SBA, and figure out how we can share information back and forth, how we can introduce portfolio awardees to each other. So there's opportunities around SBIC, there's opportunities around awardees of this program and others. And what we really want to do is be a front door to other agencies to work together to build partnerships that are more powerful than what we could do as any one agency alone. So I hope this is a good explainer. I wish you all the best of luck in this really thoughtful competition that the SBA team is running, and hope to stay in touch.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Appreciate that. And it has been a busy week for you all. So it's a very exciting time for NSF and the engines. But I do love the fact that you're tying it so much across programs, across NSF and here at SBA. I will say, the Growth Accelerator Fund competition is much smaller in comparison to some of the programs, at least dollar-wise, but the flexibility does allow for such the ability to test things out. And so it does make a difference to be able to form those partnerships and get involved into some of that work that's already taking place. So thank you so much. All right, I'm going to have some of the rest of the team come up at this point. We have about 10 minutes left to get into some Q&A. If you have some remaining questions, please do throw those into the Q&A. I see the team has been answering those furiously and clarifying. I know that there are some very specific questions and issues that each of you have. So we're doing our best to try to get to some of those at the moment. But if you do have remaining ones, if you can't get them in the Q&A, you can also reach out to accelerators@sba.gov. So please do throw anything else here for the last 10 minutes and for our guests as well. If so, I see John here. If you have anything for them, you're welcome to throw that in at the moment. I will start to call out on a few of these. I think that are rather apparent or common across all of you here today. I'll say eligibility is one. We do have a section on eligibility in the competition guidelines. So if you're going to the website and you want additional information, please make sure that the guidelines, there's a link to those guidelines. It's a PDF document. It does go through what has to be on every slide in that application to make sure that you know exactly what's being asked. We also have the FAQs that I mentioned, the pre-application webinar. But I think one of the issues here, there's a lot of folks here that are actually representing companies and talking about their own commercialization. We want to make sure that these efforts are tied into supporting the work of entrepreneurs. As we mentioned, there's so many different ways that accelerators, incubators, other programs are helping in these key theme areas already. I would love to call on any of our guests today. If you've seen anything in the chat or have heard some questions here that you would love to clarify or speak to at this point. I know there's so much to go into. Well, I do know some of the group here had wanted to potentially connect. Daniel, Rukmani, Don, I know that you have many teams and folks that you work with. So if you have the ability to share an email, at least for your team or division, or a specific website, again, we'll make sure to get that information out. I will say I also see some questions on what has been competitive in the past. I'll actually do a great call out for our friends here today that have been with us talking about those theme areas, but also for their program. So for instance, the Growth Accelerator Fund competition in 2023 we do have those listed in terms of the winners information. So if we can throw that up here in the chat, that would be great. And so you can go see who was in that cohort. We also, some of the information on the engines. Daniel, I know the work that your team has done in terms of mapping and being able to share publicly that information is amazing, as well as with Don. So Daniel, Rukmani, Don, you're back on camera. I see you here. If you want to pop in with any additional information or make some comments, we would welcome that at this time.
Yeah, I would say that, I've saw a couple comments in there with the entrepreneurial serving organizations. Even though we physically have a presence in a particular state, so, there's 17 locations, that doesn't mean we're restricted to that state. So, in some cases, I saw there's a bioscience incubator in Oregon. We do have biofab. We have a biopharmaceutical institute. You might be interested in that. You might also be interested in BioMade in Minnesota. And don't be worried that just because they're located a few states away that you can't connect with them. They're open to connect with you and or your group. And you might think of utilizing this money as a way to facilitate that connection and partnering to evaluate, go out and look at the facilities, see if there's something that your entrepreneurs may be interested in. And then maybe you could facilitate another exchange to say, hey, come and look and see what we have, and then build up a stronger long-term relationship. So just something I saw in chat.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that. I see some questions as well on specific subcategories. As you can tell, we don't have time to go into each of those today. But we do appreciate everyone's interest in that and trying to tie even together across themes. So we do have a way for you to express your interest in supporting entrepreneurs across themes, multiple theme areas, even within one application. Any other last comments from Daniel or Rukmani?
I would say the best way to stay on top of all of our programs and our funding opportunities is subscribing to our email listservs, because DOE is so big, and even each individual office is so big, it's unlikely that cold emails will get a response. So please subscribe to our listservs, and if there is a specific funding opportunity that you are interested in, whether it's a small business solicitation or a specific prize, we have these prizes for direct air capture related incubation. So, go to the specific prize, and each of our funding opportunities has an email that inbox, and someone will respond. So read our stay up to date on top of our funding opportunities, and reach out to specific people with specific questions.
Rukmani, I'm going to give a quick plug. Sorry, Daniel. We often do have our guests on those monthly calls for the innovation ecosystem. So Rukmani and her colleagues are often there, John his as well, and Daniel, when those opportunities come up. So if you're somewhat overwhelmed by the quantity or variety, we do try to list those in an organized manner. Daniel?
Yeah, I'll just add one more thing since I saw the chat a couple times. I try to respond to it in the chat, but just for everyone's edification. So what I showed on screen was just our 10 $160 million awardees. We have another 59 projects in the portfolio that span just about every state in the country. So just because you didn't see them on that one slide does not mean your region and state is not represented. I dropped kind of a link to our Tableau map that allows you to go much more deeper, and you can even look at the county level data to see who's working in your county. And if you still find out that they're not in your region, that's completely fine. If you flip to that second tab, it shows that all of these regions are building partnerships across the country. They're not just with organizations in their backyard. We're ultimately leaving it up to the awardees to determine who they want to build partnerships with. It's not up to us to basically tell them they should work with this group or that group or this startup or whatever it is. But there are partners from across the country working on all these engines, and we expect that will continue to be the case. There will always be a set of partners that are hyper localized given the geographic focus of the program, but there's nothing that prevents people from outside of their region to reach out to these teams and say, hey, here's what I think I can contribute. Are you interested? So with that, I need to actually hop off there, Brittany. So I really appreciate the time, and it's been great chatting with everyone today. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. No, that's a good point too, in terms of talking about partners. This is a prize competition. So it's not a grant, it's not a cooperative agreement, it's not a contract. We're not coming in with direct guidance on who to partner, similar to what Daniel said. This is the opportunity for each of you, wherever you're coming from, in terms of the geography or who you're trying to work with in terms of the entrepreneurs. You're able to propose the way that you would see fit best in terms of funding work to build up those partnerships that work together. And where is that going to lead? What future is that vision going to take you towards? And so this is an exciting time to put that forward, but we know that not having those boundaries can also be a challenge. So when we're here today, we're talking about these theme areas, trying to give you a little bit more guidance in terms of how you can start to tailor, how you can articulate the strengths, the opportunities within your area, and really put forward a strong application for GAFC. This is a competitive competition. We've seen this over the years. This is the 8th year that we've done the Growth Accelerator Fund competition. And so that competition does, the competitive nature of the competition does become a challenge. So we do like to be as clear as possible, telling you what to put on those slides, but we're not telling you how to tailor your program. Make sure it ties to the competition goals, make sure that you understand those goals, and that you're not trying to take our flexibility to the extreme, because again, then that's not going to fit within that spectrum of being competitive here. There's so much great work to be done throughout the ecosystem. There's so much great work that has been done that more are referenced with the growth accelerators. Our partners here today have talked about all this work going on across government. GAFC is one part of that. We hope that those of you who are successful were able to connect to those programs, to those opportunities, so that even though the stage 1 here is a smaller amount, perhaps that will take you to stage 2 and beyond, to a much broader program or a much deeper impact, both for your region, for those entrepreneurs, the small businesses, but then as we look across the country, as we're working across these amazing technologies overall. So on that note, I do want to thank our guests here today. I want to thank our amazing staff. We'll be continuing to get some of these questions answered. I know many of you have been anxious to get this answered. We'll be following up to everyone who registered to let you know when we have this video posted. It is recorded, and we'll have more information on anything that we were not able to wrap up in this short hour here today. So thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing many of you again here in the future. All right.